All right, everybody, welcome to the Cat Claus Memorial Vuex lesson. We wish her the best as she suffers through capstones. So what we started with was PupFest. We did the instructions on how to build this in the intro video. Also, if you want to follow along, Kyle Cobley /PupFest on GitHub, get you started. Okay, so the thing that we want to do is we want to take some of this state that we are currently keeping in app. So we have this stuff here. Really, by and large, we want to try to not keep this kind of thing in state in a component. Stuff like this is like really part of our like app model. You sort of think of it like a local database almost. And so Vuex is the official blessed endorsed tool that we have for that. So everything that we need to know about Vuex is in the store. If you look at the store, we see this by default. We have state, mutations, actions, and modules. And we're going to talk about these first three today. State, mutations, actions, yeah. So let's get a mental model started for how these work. If you'll remember, actually I might even still have my notes for this. I might have gotten rid of them. I almost definitely got rid of them. So, well, help me recreate it, the diagram from yesterday. We have an HTTP request that comes in. What intercepts the HTTP request? The router. The router does what? Almost. So it matches the like address of the request with a view and then renders that. So we go, okay, cool. That's the correct view for that. Could be this one, could be this one, but the purpose of the router is to match a URL with a view. And a view is just a component, but the reason we make a distinction between them is because a router routes to a view, does not route to a component. So the view can have these simple or complicated component hierarchies. Dope. The other thing the view does is it manages communication with the store. We can think of the store like a client-side version of a database. The store is going to be responsible for making API requests for us. It's going to be responsible for storing the responses, and it keeps the overall state of the application together. This is very similar, although there are some like key differences, and in a very view-like fashion, way easier to use. But this is what Redux does in React apps. So our views are going to, actually I can clean up that diagram a little bit. I'm going to say we dispatch actions. Those words are important. And then we get state. Views are allowed to do this, and with like one kind of advanced use case scenario, components are not. That's another difference that we're going to make between a view and a component. View gets the state, passes it down to components. Prop drills it, if you will. So that's our mental model for the application. For the store itself, state, mutations, actions. This is not official view terminology. This is Kyle Cobley terminology, but I'm right. So an action, you can think of it as the things your app can trigger. Mutations are modifications to state, and the state is our current data that's available in the app. And the app dispatches an action. I will say a view, some view, dispatches an action commits a mutation, and a mutation sets state. HTTP request comes in. Router finds a matching view. View is allowed to dispatch actions. It's allowed to get state. Passes that down through the component hierarchy. When you dispatch an action, the action commits a mutation, which sets state. One other important thing we got to be real clear about before we start getting hands dirty is that state is just an object. Nothing special about it. A mutation has to be synchronous. An action can be async or sync. So the reason that I said that this is like Kyle Corbally terminology, not necessarily official Vue terminology, is in the Vue world they'll say, well, if the thing you're doing is async, like a fetch, make it an action. If it's changing a flag or something like that, then use a mutation. Done. Always use an action from your view so you don't have to guess whether or not the thing you're doing is synchronous or not. Even if all the thing your action does is immediately commit a mutation. So let's start by just doing state. Our goal is to get those dogs out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a dogs key in state. It's going to be an array of objects. And then we're going to take all this data here. We're going to move it into dogs. And then then we don't need this data key at all anymore. We're going to bring in computed. And the way that we make state available in this view is by making a computed property for dogs and returning this $store.state.dogs. And if we did that right, nothing changes. Ta-da.
Back to your state. Oh, you just put it in there.
Just put it in there. That's it. Ta-da.
And what do we have to put in? Sorry, the app.
We're going to make a computed, we're going to bring the computed hash in. We make a dogs computed property, and all it does is return this $.store.state.dogs. And now we have dogs available in our template. For that matter, we have dogs available in any of the methods or any of the other computed properties, and it'll alias this store for us. We can't change the state. We can't add new dogs in this way. But just like in React, we don't want to. One-way data flow. This is how we read state from a view. We've done this part. And just like we actually do in the app, we take those dogs and we pass them into these components. The critical part here these components don't know, nor do they give a shit where that data came from. We didn't have to tell them that we got it out of the store instead of having it as state in the view, or it doesn't know if it came from a hard coding or from a JSON file or from some API. Doesn't care. It just gets past the dogs. View is responsible for fetching it from the store. Store is responsible for getting it in the first place.
Can you go back to your F.view?
Yeah.
Right, I'm a little behind.
So while we're catching up, questions?
So is the dogs thing, is it literally just a function that returns state from the store?
Mm-hmm. That's all it is. And what that lets us do is stuff like in this V4, that is looking at the computed property for dogs, which is really just this. That is pretty cool. Other questions?
Does Vue have life cycle methods like Graph does? So you
Absolutely.
can set state and stuff?
We don't have to do set state. We can just say this equals this. Much easier. But they do have lifecycle methods. And the way that you use them is they go here.
That's like component did not.
No, this is like component did mount. This is like init, or it's like the constructor in a Vue component.
I feel like one tutorial I did, you said create.
Ah!
Oh God, why?
Where did you do this to us, Ahmed?
Turning the door, leave one of them on.
No.
I'll turn them on.
Go away.
Or like really. Yeah.
All right.
I was down with it.
It's so bright.
It's awful. So, other questions about this? So we don't get the luxury of hard coding this data all that often. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to put it in public. The reason I'm going to put it in public is after you've compiled the app, there is no more view. It's just a JavaScript file, an HTML file, and a CSS file. Public is the thing that's still going to be visible to the app. If we look at what's in there right now, it's probably just the favicon. Yeah, favicon and the HTML file. So in here, I'm going to touch dogs.json, empty file. And then over in dogs.json, I'm going to take this, actually I'm going to take the entire state object. I'm going to put it over here. And the reason it's red, can anybody tell me the differences between a JavaScript object and a JSON string?
JSONs are only string.
It's only a string. It's not an object. Kind of looks like this, though. I'm close. I'm in the ballpark. There's one big thing that I have to do. Two, really. It is real mad at me right now for good reason.
You need to put your keys in quotes.
That's it. All the keys have to be in double quotes, not single quotes. Want to see another cool Vim thing? So I can say, oh, actually, I'm going to do this. I'll say, go here, make that quote, go to the end of the word, make the quote, go down a line, stop. Now I can play that back, and I can even make it do it 4 times. Vim's the shit. All right, there's one other thing that's broken in this right now. That not a problem in JavaScript is a problem in JSON, and there's no warning on the screen right now for it. trailing comma, and just got it. Legal in JavaScript, not legal in JSON. All right, so I got a JSON file now. The reason I wanted to do this is I want to show you what a fetch looks like. Over in Actions, we're going to make a method called fetchDogs. And what it's going to do is fetch dogs.json. The reason we put that there is I don't want to set up an API for this right now. It's not any different with a JSON file. You can just fetch JSON files and your app doesn't know that it wasn't over a network. So then I parse it. Nice. And then I have a response, and response.dogs should be all my buddies. Cool. Think back to what we've said so far. How do I dispatch this action? Or what dispatches this action? The view dispatches actions. So, Arena, we're going to use a lifecycle method. When this component is created, we can also do it on mount, doesn't matter. So when it's mounted, I want to this.$store.dispatch fetch dogs. That dispatches the action. So that should fire this thing off. Let's see if it did. Hey, there's an array of buddies. So think back to what we've talked about so far. It's all well and good. Now what do I need to do to get this into state? Not Andrew. I do. I need to get up here. What's the vocab word for getting from an action to a mutation? Commit. We are going to commit a mutation. Every action gets an object in that has commit. And it's common Vuex practice to just destructure it right at the top. If we had anything that we needed to pass into this action, it would be the second argument. But we're going to destructure commit out of the first argument that goes with every dispatched action. And we're going to commit response.dogs. And the first thing is the name of the mutation we want to make. So we could call this set dogs. Now the mutation is set dogs. And kind of like the actions, the first thing it takes in, which is automatically done for us, is the current state. Second thing that's passed in is whatever we gave it. So in this case, it's going to be dogs. And all we have to do, this is the equivalent of like set state or whatever in React, state.dogs equals dogs. Damn indeed. So now, I have, just like React though, I do need to initialize it to the right data type. Any guesses what happens when I do that? Yep. Oop, it tried to. Still, don't do it. It's a terrible idea. Here we go. So we started with nothing. That was the original state. When this component got mounted, we dispatched this action. This action fetched the dogs and committed the things that it got back. The mutation that we committed set the state of dogs to dogs, and when this state changed, this computed property changed. One big circle, one-way data flow. We had no dogs, on mount, dispatched, action, action, fetched, dogs, action, committed, mutation, updated state, and now we have dogs. Yep, looks like clogs or whatever. One great big happy circle. That is roughly the shape of just about everything we do in Vuex. A little bit of extra sauce, but in the 80-20 split, the thing I just showed you, that's 80% of it.
Is Vue just like naturally easier to understand than most people, or because I picked this up way quicker than
No shit. So some of it is that you've done React already. And it is like legit true that I would not be surprised at all if Diana goes into React and was like, God, this is so much simpler because there's so much less magic happening. And that is like a somewhat reasonable complaint about Vue to some extent. Ember for sure is that you can't trace the code. Like it's just all magic all the time. And it's a lot easier to go step by step by step by step in React because you have to do everything by hand.
That's kind of like the opposite reason why I feel like it's been harder for me to understand Vue. Because it's like, when you just like type this one thing, it does it. And
Magic.
in React, I'm like, okay, I can follow this. Like,
Right.
here's where it's like logically going through, like prompts and everything, so.
Yeah, that's like that split between Aaron and Arena is the split in the dev community over the last like 7 years with front-end frameworks. Is whoa. I just type in a magic incantation and I get all the things I want. I don't like that. Versus like, why do I have to do every single thing by hand? That's so much harder to understand. This is really just saying what it does and letting the application do all the like hard work. That's the split. It's also the split between Sinatra and Rails, or just any convention over configuration kind of thing.
I don't know what.
Okay, let's figure it out.
So it is saying, oh, it's because your JSON's malformatted. Lucy.
It's because you can't have a top level something like that. So nope, you still need those. Exactly. There you go. You're welcome. Questions about this? Okay, let's try something. going to add a form to add new dog. Dog has a name, a description, and an image URL. And we're going to give it a placeholder, name, and then a submit button. So we've got a form. Should see it's probably all in one line or something. Yep. How do I fix that? Ah, no, no, you can't. Don't do that.
Display block maybe?
Do we display block on what?
On the inputs.
Love it. Magic. Another pro tip, check this shit out. I can put input inside form because we're doing Sass. Yeah. And I can say something like width 400 pixels, and then also set every input to width 100%. And now they just take up the entire container. That's too much. Cool. Anybody know why? 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 Border box. This is the border box problem. So what we do to fix that? Box sizing border box. It is the stupidest thing in CSS. Cool. And now they're the same length. Also for our inputs, we could say margin bottom half a rem. And while we're at it, padding of half a rem also. Yeah. Now it's looking like a form. All right, so we have this built out. Using what you know about Vue, I want you to think to yourself for a second. I'm going to call on somebody. We'll figure it out together. How do I get this form into state? Think about it for a sec. Using what you know about Vue, how do I fill out that form and get it into state? It's a couple steps. Let's think about this for a minute. Okay, so I'm going to call on somebody to get us started. We've got a few steps in this. Joe, do you have any ideas of stuff we're going to need to do in this? Yeah.
Using the data function in the scripts.
Okay.
Using that to return an empty object that would have the keys of those names.
Mm-hmm.
And then set those with an empty string and have some kind of method that is setting those.
Cool. That's going to be with model, vModel. That is one way to do it. I'll also say that that's the more common way to do it, and I don't like it. We'll call that 1A. The first part of this is can be done differently. The last part's the same. So 1B. Can anybody think of another way we can do this? It's a lot more vanilla, but works just as good. Form data from what?
You could just pull, I guess you could just pull from each of the inputs.
Yes, we're missing a step though in both cases. What also needs to happen? We can do form data, but before we have access to either of those, some kind of event needs to occur. No, almost. What's the event? I heard it. Submit. So we need on submit. One of these two things. So here's what that looks like. So we either say at submit, add buddy. And what's add buddy going to be? A function where? Methods. Good. So we're going to make a methods key. And we're going to have add buddy in here. And this takes in the event. So if we're doing it 1B way, Arena, you had it. What am I doing? Almost. If I'm trying to do form data, ooh, form data.new would be Ruby. New form data was JavaScript with event.target. Cool. It is too much. And then we do something with the thing we get. The way that Joe was talking about it, which is the more popular way, we'll say, is we return an object that's got name, description, image, URL. Like that. You even put that like inside of something like new dog form. Totally valid. And then we do a thing called a two-way bind on these. Do vModel equals new dog form dot name. And we do that all the way down. And then we can do this dot new dog form dot name and that submit handler and get the data that way. Popular way to do it. And I would say the really valid use case for that is if you want to see that change in real time, like as you're typing, you want to see the like name of the buddy change or something like that. That's when you'd use that. By and large, like I always just try to use the event if I can.
Is that kind of like a control form?
Exactly. Well, like the way that I'm doing it is more like a controlled form. this, the two-way binding is like what we did before React. That's how old Angular worked. It's how old Ember worked. Basically, if I change it here, it updates on the form. If I change it on the form, it updates here. But there's no circle. They just talk directly to each other. And it turned out that was a super inefficient way to do it. It's 10 times slower than just doing it in a circle. And so React was the one that figured that out. And so now we have controlled forms, and now everybody does it that way. But Vue still has this optional two-way binding specifically for form inputs. And I'll say that they're pretty popular still. I like doing them this way. All right, so we got here. I'm going to call on somebody else to give us step 2. Think about what your answer for step 2 is going to be. Samantha, give me a hand. I've got the form data.
Yeah, the form data. I want to say you want to push it to dogs.json.
So think about the first part of this lesson and some of the stuff that we've talked about. It's on the way there. How do I get it to the store?
You need an action.
I need to dispatch an action. How do I dispatch an action? Not commit. Not emit either. Emit bubbles up to a component above me. I'm talking to this completely separate Vuex thing.
This $.
Yeah. Cool. Dispatch takes 2 arguments in this case. Like whatever our action is called. So this one might be add dog. And then we take in the dog we're adding. So maybe that's name form data dot, anybody remember this one? Get. And then description is form data dot get description. I know. Don't call it a comeback.
That's not
So if we're doing it the way that Joe was talking about, instead of form data dot get, we just do this dot new dog form dot name or whatever. But that's the only difference between this way and that way. All right. Oh, one other thing we need to do, important. It's a form. We're submitting it. Prevent default. So you do event.prevent default, or you're going to lose your shit about this. Check this out. It's so cool. Instead of event.prevent default there, @submit.prevent. Done! That's so cool. Cool. So I dispatch the add dog action and I give it this dog data. Over here in the store, what do I need to do?
Create the
Yeah. And this one works just like fetch dogs did. We're going to destructure out commit, and that's our dog. Now, if we're doing interacting with like an API or something like that, fetch my post API, method post, headers, application JSON, all that kind of thing. At the end of it, we commit it. We can't do that with a JSON file. We'd have to like rewrite the file. Not impossible, but that's not what we're going to do. We are going to just mutate it directly. So talk me through this. Let's get back. Form data, we dispatched an action Now, what's the third step? What mutation? Commit. We commit a mutation.
I was thinking more like
We commit a mutation. So we say commit add dog. Dog. All right. Last step. Yep. So we set the state. So this is called add dog. It takes in state and a dog. And so we say state.dogs. You can do .push here, like something like that. It's for jokers. Let's do spread dogs, dog. Or, this is one of the coolest parts about this, we can do dog, spread dogs. Well, they do different things. Do I want the dog to be at the end of the list or the front of the list? All right, let's see if it works. Dogs is not defined. Oop, it's not dogs, it is state.dogs. All right, so I'm going to look up cute buddy. Get some guy's best friend. Any day now. Let's go with dog. All right, this little guy. So I grab this image, go over here, Baxter. A real rapscallion. And then I submit it, and there's Baxter. Oh, one other thing I might want to do is after this, event.target.reset. Does that make sense? So Jared, a real rapscallion. There we go. And if we had like done a fetch request in here and then just done the commit in one of the .then handlers, now it's in the database also. And that is everything you have to know about Vuex. What questions do you have?
How would you go about doing like a patch request?
Oh, baby. We have this conversation so much.
I figure it's just the method change.
There we go. Yours didn't work, honey?
Okay, it means your JSON's not formatted correctly. So let me see your JSON file.
Is it loading a second ago? Okay. Okay. Let me see your network. See dogs.json. Let me see headers. Back to your code. Let me see. Oh, that's why. It needs to be in your public folder.
And
Alright, that's right. Sick. Other questions about anything Vuex?
I'm getting an error when I'm trying to add.
Okay. This
Oh
would
my
be
god,
for
Joe, it's gonna have a huge bill, man.
methods, plural.
You should go get him.
And like that's part of the rough part about magic and these kinds of applications too. Is like spelling error.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Do, in your function, add levy.
Other questions about all things Vuex?
You have to do reset. You have to install this.
you're just saying like when
It's
and
called-
hit submit, just
So
do
then to
something.
clear the form type that after the method.
Clearing the form, it looks like this.
Yeah, VETUR.
All right. Going once, going twice.